remember the good old days where when it was the week of the holiday, any holiday, major American holiday, but damn sure Christmas, that there was not really a lot of news. It was slow and you could take it easy and maybe do a best of series, or maybe you could, do something where you're like reflecting on the year or doing something fun as like, oh, what are the best Christmas gifts that you're looking forward to, or Hanukkah, or what have you. That's no longer the America that we live in. The fact, folks, that I am like, should I do a show on Christmas night? Should I not? Should I take a break? Should I not? Because of this fucking news cycle is preposterous. Okay. But we are going to dig into so much today, starting with, I don't know, the dismantling of corporate mainstream news and just how ripe America apparently has always been for authoritarianism. I had no idea this country was so porous. Did you? But evidently, we were ripe for a fucking takeover because this is where we are. I am so excited that you are here, dear friends. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show, Damnation. Let's get into it. Hello, damnation. I am so happy that you all are here. And I'm noticing, if you can notice, I have sparkles on my face because while I am trying to pull together some kind of holiday cheer and get myself together, I also am trying to bring you the news, which is just, dear God. And yes, Ernst, thank you so much. I am feeling better. Thank you all for the well wishes. I did take the weekend to like recoup. And so I am on the upswing from my sickness, but I am so glad that you all stuck with me last week as I listened back to the show and was like, I probably shouldn't have gone on air, but here we are. So we begin today with, my God. The title of the show is Media Blackout, Epstein Files Pulled, VP Speech Outrage, and CBS Complies, because I couldn't fit in bend the knee or bends over with the characters that I was given. But okay, so we're going to start today with CBS. And it's funny because as you can see from my background, I am home with my family for the holidays. And, my parents, like many people's parents, are avid watchers of 60 Minutes. And I just said to my mom, so you can't watch 60 Minutes anymore. And she was just like, oh, I had no plans on it. She's like, I saw what they just pulled from off the air, and I've decided that they are just as corrupt as everyone else is. And this is where most people, this is, as Aaron Parnes put it earlier today, this is the station of Cronkite. Right? Like when you think about political news, you think about like the giants of the news, CBS, right? CBS was that. And the fact that it took nothing other than the appointment of a fucking right-wing Zionist hack to be the head of this, iconic, doesn't go to serve what CBS was justice. But the fact that it can crumble so quickly, the fact that it can just be wiped away so quickly, clearly Putin knew what he was doing when he handpicked Donald Trump a couple of years ago. He knew what America would fall for. He knew that America was based on nothing more than like figments of our imagination, indoctrination, and fairy tales that like could just go away or could be changed and the narrative be done with. And so CBS News chief Barry Weiss pulls 60 Minutes story sparking outrage, which won't go anywhere and it doesn't matter. So this is according to NPR, just a day and a half before it was set to broadcast. New CBS News editor-in-chief Barry Weiss pulled a planned 60 Minutes investigative segment centering on allegations of abuse at an El Salvador detention center that we know of as CCOT, where the Trump administration sent hundreds of Venezuelan migrants last March. Weiss told colleagues this weekend the piece planned for Sunday night's show could not run without an on-the-record comment. Get this. Without an on-the-record comment from an administrative official. She pushed for 60 Minutes to interview, of all people, Stephen fucking Miller, senior advisor to Trump, or someone of his stature. I mean, he's short as fucking pathetic, so it wouldn't be hard to find someone of his stature. Anyway, that's according to two people with knowledge of events at the network who spoke on the condition of anonymity. So, the correspondent on the story, Sharon Alfonsi, condemned the decision in an email to 60 Minutes colleagues on Sunday evening, saying she believed it was, quote, not an editorial decision, it was a political one. And the email was obtained by NPR. A press release sent out on Friday morning from CBS's news publicity team had promoted the story, promising a look inside CCOT, one of El Salvador's harshest prisons. The network ran a video promotion, which has since been taken down on the air and on social media. The announcement cited, quote, the brutal and torturous conditions some recently released deportees said they endured there. Now, folks, if you recall, right, one of the people that was sent there, right, whose name was in all of the headlines in all of the papers and who we covered here and still continue to cover here now that a federal judge ordered his release once again from ICE detention, is Abrego Garcia, right? Abrego Garcia, if you remember, right, is swept up with a bunch of innocent people and Donald Trump's like made for television, a shackling of these people and shipping them to CCOT. And remember, when he had the president of El Salvador sitting in his gaudy ass Oval Office, where he said, oh, I got to give you more money. You know, we got to build more CCOTs, right? Remember all of this. This happened a couple of months ago, right? So what was CBS going to do with this expose? Of course, they were going to uncover that this place is a death chamber. People are sent to CCOT to die. And not die in like a comfortable way, but die in the most torturous, dehumanized, disgusting way. And when Abrego Garcia, right, sat down, with his senator, the only one to actually go over to El Salvador, Chris Van Hollen, right? Hats off to him, because if it wasn't for him going over there and demanding to see Abrego Garcia, we would have never heard from that man again. And his family wouldn't have even known that he was alive. But if you recall what he said, he talked about being forced to be on your knees from 6 a.m. until 9 p.m., not being allowed to go to the bathroom, having to relieve yourself on yourself, right? No food, lights on all the time, no mattresses, right? Being beaten by guards on a consistent basis. Like, these were the stories, and that was just probably the PG version that he was offering, right? And so, folks, when we look at this, right? It is just the complete and total blackout, erasure of what it is that this country was supposed to stand for before Donald Trump got his hands on it, got his claws on it. And what this was going to expose was very clearly that Donald Trump knew exactly what was going on in this torture chamber. And so then there were going to be a lot of questions and hopefully a lot of fucking lawsuits. And so I want to show you the clip that was pulled from CBS's social media because they think that this stuff doesn't exist forever? You take a look.
It began as soon as the planes landed. The deportees thought they were headed from the U.S. back to Venezuela, but instead they were shackled, paraded in front of cameras, and delivered to CCOT, the notorious maximum security prison in El Salvador, where they told 60 Minutes they endured 4 months of hell.
Did you think you were going to die there?
We thought we were already the living dead, honestly.
We thought we were already the living dead. This was an entire expose that was about to drop to show when Donald Trump sat down with the president of El Salvador and said, we need more CCOTs, who Donald Trump paid $6 million to in order to get these criminals off of our hands. And again, these people thought, well, at the very least, we are going to be sent back to our country of origin. No, not into a prison. It can't even be called a prison, folks. It is a government-funded torture chamber. And Barry Weiss pulled the fucking story because Donald Trump and this regime knew exactly what they were doing when they were sending people there. They knew exactly what was going to happen to them. And they've been spreading the lies for God knows how long at this point, right? 10 years plus that they've been telling us about the illegals and the criminals. And in Donald Trump's 19-minute fucking deranged speech he gave last week, talking about, these illegals and they're criminals and they're coming from insane asylums and all of these things, not the landscapers and the hairdressers and the fucking nannies that he put on that plane. So Barry Weiss saying that the administration needed to be on the record for this, the administration has already been on the record. They said that they wanted more CCOTs built, that this is where they wanted to put dissenters. If you remember, Donald Trump said, homegrowns are next. Homegrowns are next. And they laughed. So this is what they continue to say here. Alfonsi, the one whose segment this was that was yanked, wrote that she and her colleagues on the story had sought comments and interviews from the Department of Homeland Security, the White House, and the State Department. Government silence is a statement, not a veto, Alfonsi wrote in the email. If the administration's refusal to participate becomes a valid reason to spike a story, we have effectively handed them a kill switch for any reporting they find inconvenient. Alfonsi did not respond to an emailed request for comment. And then this is what Weiss said, right, in response to the backlash that they're receiving. Quote, while the story presented powerful testimony of torture at CCOT, it did not advance the ball. This is 60 Minutes. We need to be able to get the principles on the record and on camera. Again, you're full of shit, Barry Weiss. You're a fucking white nationalist and a liar. The administration has already been on the record, because if you cannot pull Donald Trump's meeting with the president of El Salvador sitting in the Oval Office where he said that we need to build more CCOTs and I have more for you and the homegrowns are coming next and the laughter, that is the administration on the fucking record. I'm telling you, folks, I sit here and I cannot believe how easy it was to take over America. I honestly, in my gut, in my heart, believe that this country would put up more of a fight. A country that was founded on the backs of Black and brown people, that tortured and raped and murdered and enslaved indigenous Black people, but then had the audacity to overthrow a king because they didn't want to pay taxes and they didn't want these tariffs and all. I honestly thought that this country this revolutionary country wouldn't allow the stupidest and most callous and most cruel and petty human being to undo 250 years. Just like that. Not a blink from corporate America. Not the slightest. Just here's $16 million, ABC. Here's $24 million, YouTube. Just doing their pay to play right out in the open with us, and we are just sitting around and taking it. I honestly, folks, as we close out this year, I continue to think to myself, what is 2026 going to bring? I have the video up right now with Jared and I from last week talking about how hard the month of December is in general, but how hard it is this year because 2025 has just felt like COVID was a vacation. And I say that with 1 million people that died. It felt like COVID was the good old days in comparison to what we have been dealing with over this last year. So in my mind, usually we're always excited, right? Like, let's reflect on the last 12 months and look ahead for what's to come and feeling possible and feeling like we have a clean slate. And it's more so like all of us are kind of opening the door real slow, pulling back the curtain real slow, being like, I don't know if I should sit down and get comfortable here because what the fuck? None of us could ever have imagined what we have experienced and endured as a collective over the last 12 months. And if we can now look back on 2020 and generally say to ourselves, man, those were the good old days. I'm afraid of what's to come and look back on 2025 and realize that we had it so good. Where we are headed, folks, is, I don't mean to be like the Grinch that stole democracy and stole hopefulness, but I don't know, honestly, what it is going to take to shake this country out of its stupor. Some days I honestly do blame smartphones and streaming and the numbing that we take part in. And look, I know this shit is hard to take in on a regular basis. I know that it's hard to swallow. I know that it's hard to follow these headlines. I talk about it openly. But at the same time, I'm just like, Donald Trump is openly killing people. Do you know how many people have died in ICE custody? In the last 2 days, 2 people that I know of, that I've seen come across my feed, healthy people, no pre-existing conditions, are dying in ICE detention. One was an imam, right? 40-something years old, held in ICE detention for over 200 days. Dead now. Another 41-year-old Haitian man, fully healthy, held for a day. He's dead now. They say that he died of natural causes. How do you die of natural causes at 41 years old without any pre-existing conditions? And folks, these are the people we know about. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you realize that it was only a couple of years ago And I remember this. It was only a couple of years ago. And there was a story going around about how Native American children were being stolen, kidnapped from their homes, from their tribes, forced into this schooling, right? To essentially beat their tribalism out of them. And what it was discovered in both Canada and the United States, decades upon decades after this practice, which was normalized and legalized, was done, mass graves, right? From the abuse. We are still, thank you, residential school system. Thank you, Philip. We are still in this day and age discovering mass graves of Black people. We are still finding out new horrific stories of the lynchings and the burning down of school buildings while they locked Black children inside. So just think, if we are just learning about stuff, literal truths and people and bodies and children that were buried decades upon decades ago, how long do you think it's going to be until light is actually shown on what has been happening behind these ICE detention centers? How long do you think it will be before Donald Trump is dead and gone and this regime has been dismantled, that we actually get to the heart of the heart and know how many people were murdered while we all went about our lives? I think about this is the type of shit that keeps me up at night. This is the type of thing that I think about on a regular basis, because as the Holocaust was proceeding at breakneck pace, people in Europe and around the world were going about their days. They were still shopping. They were still going to restaurants. They were still going out. It was just that every other day, people were disappearing. We are living this shit now. So while they want to pull these stories about CCOT, and what I posted today on Threads and on Blue Sky is that the United States is running mini CCOTs all over this country. No one is allowed inside of these ICE detentions. Every time that members of Congress or senators, every time that they show up, the clergy show up because they want to pray for the people. No one is allowed inside. Anytime that lawyers show up to see their clients, they're not allowed inside. So there is no record of what is happening. Remember Alligator Alcatraz and a federal judge shutting that down? And then all of a sudden, oh, I don't know, over 40 people disappeared who were there at Alligator Alcatraz, got on a bus, and just vanished into thin air. And that story also vanished into thin air. Folks, I'm telling you, there is a genocide that is happening on American soil. And I do not know what it is going to take to snap a record-breaking number of Americans out of their slumber to believe that we cannot ride this out. These were the longest and hardest 12 months of most of our fucking lives. I don't have it in me to go on for another 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever it is that they have up their sleeve, because you know what else? And I'm going to do a deeper dive on it next week. They've already released Project 2026 because over 50% of Project 2025 is done. Project 2026 is basically Gilead. It is, how do we roll back all of the protections that women and minorities have? And we have a Supreme Court that is primed and ready to do it. You think the idea that the women have the right to vote, that, oh, that can never be rolled back? Folks, it's, I'm telling you, it is, and I know folks said this before in the chat, it is hard to get into the holiday spirit right now when all of this is happening around us. So just know that you are not alone if you can't muster the fa la 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 and the joy and all of these things, because it almost feels like psychotic to try and do it. But, you know, and then on the other hand, I say, well, we might as well hold on to joy while we can, because it's going to be gone soon. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, do you know that the people that are locked away right now would give anything to be spending time with their families, to be fighting their way through lines and buying gifts and wrapping presents? So I know that it's this weird juxtaposition that we find ourselves in, but celebrate for them, for those that can't. We have to find a way to fight and live at the same time. That's what we're being called to do. It's brutal, but it's necessary. Next up, this motherfucker. And let me take a sip of tea. I swear to God, every time that I think that, like, I can't hate JD Vance more, he just goes deeper. And the thing that I really can't stand about JD Vance is that he's an inauthentic bully. Like, he's a lie. He's fake, right? Like, no one is ever going to follow JD Vance. No matter how hard that he tries to push this tough guy act, no matter how hard he tries to, you know, tell us about white people not having to apologize. I'm going to play that clip. Like, no matter what it is that JD Vance utters, just know that it is utter bullshit. He might as well just have Peter Thiel's hand directly up his ass like a fucking Muppet. Do you know what I'm saying? He's so easily swayed. He stands for nothing. And I rather these hateful motherfuckers who actually believe this shit. Do you know what I'm saying? Than someone who is just like cosplaying white supremacy. Like, what, like, let me ask you all a question. What is worse? Is it worse to be a full-on white nationalist or to cosplay white nationalism for fucking applause and a grift? Because I'm telling you, like, cosplaying white supremacy to me is worse than actually being a white supremacist. And that's who JD Vance is. And for those who want to be like, oh, Usher run, this bitch knew exactly what she was signing up for. And yes, I said bitch, because I don't give a fuck. I've run out of them. I mean, it's towards the end of the year. I got to re-up in January because right now I'm on empty. Please stop saying that folks need to release Usher Vance and they need to save Melania. These are people that knew exactly who these men were when they put these fucking rings on, when they said their vows or whatever it was the mail-ordered one did from Eastern Europe. I don't know what she did. Maybe she exchanged her vows on Epstein's plane. I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Nonetheless, Usher Vance, she's a woman with choices. By the way, you know what's so funny? Before I even dig into this story, do you know what was so funny? So last night I can't sleep, right? So I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning and I can't go back to sleep. And unfortunately, I was up for like an hour and a half. And I was thinking to myself, remember when Barack Obama was president? And remember how you saw Jill and Michelle, first and second lady, together all the time? Remember how they were like doing events together and, doing projects together and like besties, right? When have you ever seen Melania and Usher together other than on inauguration day? Seriously, think about it. What is Usher Vance's priorities as second lady? We don't see her anywhere, right? It's almost as if, oh, I don't know, they're trying to hide the brown lady and her biracial children. And I cannot imagine being married to a man who doesn't even stand up for me. Like, how do you lay in bed next to that? Or maybe you don't because he's too busy on the couch. Anyway, so Vance refuses to take sides in GOP fight over bigotry. The vice president's plea for a big tent coalition at an annual conservative gathering belied the cracks in his party over anti-Semitism, racism, and conspiracy theories. The bitter infighting over anti-Semitism, free speech, and bigotry during Turning Point USA's annual national conference not only exposed fissures in Trump's movement, but also laid bare a challenge for his potential successor. How would his likely heir apparent handle an explosive debate among Republicans over whether extremists and conspiracy theorists should be embraced or excluded from the conservative coalition? On Sunday, J.D. Vance gave an answer, suggesting he was more than willing to forego imposing any moral red lines. Quote, "When I say that I'm going to fight alongside of you, I mean all of you, each and every one." Trump did not build the greatest coalition in politics by running his supporters through endless, self-defeating purity tests. So what you're saying is, for the faction of your party that believes that the Holocaust didn't happen, those are the people that are inside of your tent. For those that have called your wife anything but a child of God, those people are in your tent. For those that have just said the most outrageous racist things, like Nick Fuentes, who said that Black people were better off during slavery. That's the big tent that J.D. Vance is referring to. That's the big tent that he is welcoming in. So on Friday, Vivek Ramaswamy, an Indian American, I don't know if he knows that, but who is running for governor of Ohio as a Republican, also criticized the faction of the party. Yeah, because they blatantly told him that we don't care if you like to go to the country club or if you want to pretend to be a Republican because you're brown. And if you remember, he sat there like a fucking fool when Ann Coulter said, "Yeah, I like you, but I'd never vote for you because you're brown." And he was like, "Yeah, I guess I understand that." He went after those who have embraced the idea that so-called heritage Americans, which is fucking laughable, a predominantly white group whose families have been in the country for multiple generations, have a greater claim to the nation than more recent arrivals. Those comments appear to put Mr. Ramaswamy at odds with Vance, who has spoken out against, quote, importing millions and millions of low-wage serfs, and argued that mass migration was, quote, theft of the American dream. Do you know what is theft of the American dream? Fucking billionaires that are not taxed, right? That's what theft of the American dream is. You know, pouring trillions of dollars into AI rather than Medicaid or Medicare or public education or stopping climate change. That's what the theft of the American dream is. You know, when you rob people of their choice and bodily autonomy, that's what the theft of the American dream is. Low wage serfs, because I don't see white motherfuckers showing up for the kinds of jobs, right, that these people are doing in the fields in order to put food on your table. Right now that Donald Trump has rounded up, what was it? 75,000 hard-working people with no criminal record. 75,000 of them are sitting right now in detention centers, in these human fucking animal factories. And that's how the vice president of the United States refers to them. Oh, by the way, so I guess the whole half of your family, your mother and father-in-law, guess you don't really give a fuck about them either. Mr. Ramaswamy also took on those, and this is what got me. Ramaswamy also took on those who have issued derogatory attacks against Mr. Vance's wife, Usha Vance. And he said Mr. Fuentes and others promoting hateful views had, quote, no place in the future of the conservative movement. Ramaswamy did more to defend Usha Vance than J.D. Vance has. J.D. Vance went on national television hoping that his wife, you know, would publicly embrace Christianity, what she hasn't done their entire relationship and marriage. But he went on television saying that, you know, I hope she does. I hope she comes around. And if she doesn't, well, you saw my picture on today's episode, because once again, he was with the chosen one. Let me ask you this. Erica Kirk, I gotta say to you, my partner, I'm going to put it in my context because I'm queer, right? So my girlfriend, wife, murdered. You going to be tap dancing on a stage in pleather and sparkles with pyrotechnics 4 months after you watched your spouse get shot in the neck and bleed out on social media? Like, that's what you're doing? Like, does anybody ever ask, like, who the fuck is with her grieving children? Someone on social media said, you know, when Erica Kirk was told about the stages of grief, that all she heard was stages and it stopped there. I literally cannot imagine. I cannot imagine being like going on tour following the murder of my loved one. I really cannot. Like, where is Christianity? Is it in the room with us? Like, I just, it's so, folks, it's so disgusting. And then you saw the other day when she accidentally said grift on stage when she was introducing somebody, but said like, oh, he's following in my husband's footsteps and he is a grift. I mean, a gift to all of us. And he has grit. And then she tried to like double and triple down to assuage the fact that she literally said grift on stage, like as a Freudian slip. I was like, that's the only true shit she's said on stage since her husband was killed. I cannot imagine that Charlie Kirk is looking up at her and being like, So proud that this is my wife and widow. And I know what I said. I said looking up at. Vance, however, left open the possibility that they did. I didn't bring a list of conservatives to denounce and deplatform, Vance said, arguing that Mr. Kirk had welcomed debate. We have far more important work to do than canceling each other. Except when one of us believes that, one of the most atrocious acts in world history didn't actually take place, or that Jewish people should have no place in America or anywhere. Like when you have people inside of your big tent who believe that, you're telling me that that's a purity fucking test? So here is JD Vance, where he said, and well, you take a listen, because I just, and of course it's not going to play. Maybe that's God trying to spare you all. Just kidding. Here's technology.
In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore.
Let's run it back again.
In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore.
I'm so confused. Did y'all receive an apology in the mail? Should I go and check my mailbox? Should I go to the post office? Did anybody receive an apology from white people? What the fuck are you talking about? And like, to the wild applause. Like, I swear to God, the fragility of these fucking people. Like, they can't exist in space with Black people and other people of color without somehow that feeling like an affront and a threat to their very existence. Like, what is wrong with you? These people getting therapy could have saved us so much. So much. But no, they got to take out their rage bait and their fucking hate all on the rest of us instead of dealing with their own impotent, small, weak, fragile selves. It's really fascinating. Because, like, the question would be, what do white people have to apologize for, and when did they apologize? It's the same fucking shit that DeSatan said down in Florida. Oh, we can't teach children history because then white children will feel bad about themselves. Well, why are you always assuming that they're going to align their beliefs with the oppressor rather than with the oppressed? You think very little of white children then, don't you? Fucking mini Hitlers. Switching gears. So all of this is happening, right? As we were supposed to, on Friday, receive the trove of files that were supposed to be released as demanded from a federal judge. It was not a suggestion. It was their ruling. The DOJ decided to release a bunch of Black pages and think that that was somehow cooperating with the law and saying, we'll get to the rest later. So again, you would expect there to be more outrage. Y'all, don't ask me why I watched this clip earlier, because I don't watch Morning Joe. And I don't watch Morning Joe and Mika for a whole host of reasons. One, I think that they're not that bright. Two, I think that they're complicit, right? They party at Mar-a-Lago. They love themselves some Donald Trump. But when I heard this clip today of Scarborough, I was like, has he really lost it? Like, do you have any credibility left, sir? Take a listen.
One of the great mysteries to me and a lot of other people is we've had reporting for some time. Donald Trump is not on Epstein's list. There's nothing in there that's really damning about Donald Trump. And as Susie Wild says, not damning about Donald Trump.
According to the chief.
Or Bill Clinton. So one of the great mysteries all along in this, not been like, what's Donald Trump hiding? What did he do? Da-da-da-da. It's like, why, if he's not in these files, which all the reporting says he's not, why is he so obsessed on blocking access to the files? Is he trying to protect somebody?
Joe, you got to the actual heart of the question, and it's actually not been reported. One of the reasons Marjorie Taylor Greene got on board with Massey and my effort is she fundamentally believed that Trump was not implicated, and she would call the president and say, look, just get these out. I don't know why you're not getting it out. And she would tell Massey and me, of course he's going to come around. And every press conference we had, we never made it about Donald Trump. We made it about the survivors. The survivors pleaded with Donald Trump. You can be a hero. No previous president has done this. Release the files. And what people are asking, and frankly, even I'm asking, is what are they hiding? Why is it that they're not releasing the draft 60-count indictment when they only charged Epstein with 2 counts? Why aren't they releasing the 82-page prosecution memo of all the implications he had with rich and powerful folks? Why are they protecting this Epstein class? And why aren't they releasing the FBI interviews? Every time they do one of these things of concealing, they're just raising further doubt.
Joe Scarborough is an idiot, okay? And I don't know why this man is as wealthy as he is. I don't know why he's been on air for as long as he is, as long as he has. Honestly, I really don't. Donald Trump's own chief of staff, in the Vanity Fair interview that went viral last week, said that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. She said that Bill Clinton is in the Epstein files, but that Bill Clinton never went to the island, as Donald Trump has said. We have already seen from the Epstein estate, separate from what the DOJ has, that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. We have already heard that the DOJ and FBI were directed to denote what pages, as they were going through the Epstein files, Donald Trump's name was found on, and to enter it into an Excel spreadsheet. So how the fuck do you get on national television and say, we all know that Donald Trump isn't in the Epstein files? Bitch, why do you think that he is hiding them? Give me a break here. It's like the gaslighting, the lying, the burying, the protection of powerful, white, wealthy men. It's never going to stop. It's never going to stop. Because as Waj says, as the great George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. Scarborough goes to those clubs. You and I are not allowed in the room. Oh, he knows these guys. He's been drinking scotch and playing golf with them forever. Oh, we all know Donald Trump's not in the Epstein files. We all don't know that. That's the delusion that you're operating under. Because then you would have to reconcile with the fact that you're chummy chum with a fucking pedophile. And you don't want to reconcile with that fact because that would take too much self-reflection. And we know that MAGA cis white men, what they can't do is self-reflection. They can barely do their own reflection, which is why they spend so much time on projection. Folks, I'm running out of steam. Like I said, 0 fucks. Riding into the end of the year holding on to my wits with like some masking tape and band-aids. And I can't even drink right now because I'm fucking sick. Anywho. So, on top of the bullshit release that they put out, right? Where everything is blacked out. They also thought that no one was going to pay attention to the fact that they also were deleting files while people were looking at them. And it's just like, because again, who's going to do anything about it? You know, like who's going to do anything about it? So items from the Epstein files, including a photo containing Donald Trump, were removed by the Justice Department from its website because of, and this is from BBC. And this is the bullshit that BBC ran because this is what Todd Blanche said, right? Because you can believe anything that fucking Todd Blanche says. Because of concerns raised by victims. The victims are the only one doing the fucking hard work here, saying, release the fucking files. And now you're telling us that you removed files because the victims said they wanted them removed? How stupid do you think that the rest of us are? The image featuring Trump was later reinstated after review, said Todd Blanche. Blanche rejected criticisms that the removal was related to the U.S. president and said the photo that including him also showed unredacted images of women. At least 13 files from thousands released on Friday related to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein had disappeared from the website without explanation by Saturday. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee questioned the image's removal. In a social media post, they asked Attorney General Pam Bondi, what else is being covered up? The U.S. Department of Justice said in a post on X, because apparently this is where important business is handled. Trump was flagged by the Southern District of New York for potential further action to protect victims. It added that the image was removed temporarily for further review out of an abundance of caution. Folks, when did Jeffrey Epstein commit suicide? 2019. How many years has it been? Right? How many years has it been since the Department of Justice and the FBI were collecting data on Jeffrey Epstein? So you want me to believe that now, after all of the calls, after Donald Trump himself signed legislation because he had no choice but to do so, because Republicans broke ranks, that now you're like, ooh, we shouldn't have released that picture. We shouldn't have done that thing. Like, you haven't had the time to redact, or as Aaron Parnes says, over-redact everything inside of these files, and then you release them, and then you're like, ooh, let us pull back these 16 as if no one is gonna look. And then they also they happen to contain a picture of Trump. So supposedly they said after review, it was determined that there's no evidence that any Epstein victims are depicted in the photograph, and it has been reposted without any alteration or redaction. Sure. So then finally, Bill Clinton. So we all know, and this is again what this Department of Justice was up to with their selection in what they released and how they released it. We all know that Donald Trump, on his broke down social media platform, called on Pam Bondi to open a new investigation into Bill Clinton, which means that anything that included Bill Clinton shouldn't have been released in the first fucking place, because supposedly there's a new investigation into him. Right? Hasn't that been their fucking reaction to everything, is that there is an ongoing investigation, so we can't fill in the blank? So anyway, Bill Clinton's spokesperson calls on the DOJ to release Epstein files referencing the former president. A former spokesperson for Bill Clinton on Monday called on the Department of Justice to release any documents related to the former president in its ongoing release of files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The rare statement from Clinton's spokesperson, Angel Urania, comes as the Trump administration has attempted to make him the GOP's new boogeyman, which is incredible because guess what? He's not running for office again. I don't give a fuck. I have said this before. I don't care if it's a Republican or Democrat that is implicated in the Epstein files. I don't care if it is a billionaire or trillionaire or a janitor. If you were involved in raping children, if you were involved in trafficking children, if you were complicit in knowing but doing nothing, you should be fucking exposed. So making Bill Clinton, right, who I don't ever want to see on a fucking DNC stage. I never want to see him pulled out to give a long, drawn-out fucking speech on nothing because his days are over. But you see what they're trying to play here. And so this is part of the statement that was released from Clinton's people. What the Department of Justice has released so far and the manner in which it did so makes one thing clear. Someone or something is being protected, Urania said in the statement. We do not know whom, what, or why, but we do know this. We need no such protection. And this is the full statement. The Epstein Files Transparency Act imposes a clear legal duty on the U.S. Department of Justice to produce the full and complete record the public demands and deserves. However, the Department of Justice has released so far, and the manner in which it did so makes one thing clear. Someone or something is being protected. We do not know whom, what, or why, but we do know this. We need no such protection. Accordingly, we call on President Trump to direct Attorney General Bondi to immediately release any remaining materials referring to, mentioning, or containing a photograph of Bill Clinton. This includes, without limitation, any records that may exist and are subject to disclosure under the Act, including grand jury transcripts, interview notes, photographs, and findings by the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Refusal to do so will confirm the widespread suspicion that the Department of Justice's actions to date are not about transparency, but about insinuation, using selective releases to imply wrongdoing about individuals who have already been repeatedly cleared by the very same Department of Justice over many years, under presidents and attorney generals of both parties. So, again, my feelings. I don't care what party. I don't care what network. I don't care what country club. If you knew what was going on and you said nothing, you're complicit. You're an accomplice. And I have a video up right now on Substack with my friend Dino Badala, who wrote a splendid piece on the Dean Report on Substack, where he made a very sharp link between Donald Trump's Miss Teen USA pageant and Jeffrey Epstein. And my question is, why haven't these connections been investigated ad nauseum? These people are fucking eye deep in this shit. And they are tap dancing the best way that they know how in order to continue to bury the truth. Because apparently, whatever is in those files is so damaging to the man. Just think to yourself, friends. Donald Trump already said he could grab a woman by the pussy. Donald Trump already said, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and my poll numbers would go up. Donald Trump already has disparaged Somalis, Haitians, entire African nations, shithole countries, rapists, murderers. We already know Donald Trump is a piece of shit. So the question is, what is worse than what is already public that they don't want us to know? And I don't know, to be honest, friends, I don't know if we will ever know the lengths, know the hundreds of people, from doctors, dentists, technocrats, politicians, religious figures, that were all part of this sordid, distorted sexual predator network. But one thing is for sure, unlike what Joe Scarborough managed to say on national television, Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. He's scared as shit of its reveal, and they're going to do anything, including bringing down this entire fucking country, in order to hide it. Them's is just the facts. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern, where we will have Town Hall Tuesday. And I have a question for all of you as I prepare for my own holiday travel, and want to get thoughts from my faithful viewers on what you would like to see while I am traveling. But folks, do your best. Do your best to try and hold on to some faith. Hold on to each other. If not for yourself, then try and find the snippets of joy for those that will not be able to experience it. Right? We have to continue living for as long as we can, for as hard as we can, loving each other, taking care of ourselves, because there are too many people that cannot. And before I get out of here, let me thank my super stickers and super thanks. And those folks, that this is independent media. Every single dollar that you donate allows me to do the work that I do. And without you, I wouldn't be able to do it. So thank you to Pastor Joyce for gifting 5 Danielle Moodie memberships to the channel. I appreciate you so much. For the $1.99 M Kit, appreciate you. Ghostface Killer gifting 1 Danielle Moodie membership to the channel. Appreciate you so much. In the Middle of Nowhere also gifting a membership. PS, thank you for the $2. Navy, thank you for the $4.99. In the Middle, thank you for the $2. Again, folks, every single dollar that you offer helps me to be able to do the work that I do with the integrity and passion you deserve. I will see you back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. As always, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these incredibly dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Be well.